Without a doubt, the main events today are the meeting between Trump and the meeting with Putin. And just now, the latest news showed that Trump has taken off toward Alaska, and they're meeting in Anchorage, Alaska, at the Elmendorf-Richardson military base. And this meeting brings a lot of hope. But I think that most likely, we should expect a presentation of a plan to stop the fighting. That is, most likely, these will be some preliminary agreements, and after that, there will be certain steps taken. So, Trump wrote on his social media that the stakes are high, meaning that this is a very important conversation, as he said. Well, I'm sure he's putting aside all emotions in order to make the right decision. He also said that there's about a 25% chance that the negotiations themselves will be successful. Let's consider both a more or less positive scenario and one that's not so good as of today. But I'm sure that Trump, as a strategist, we've talked about this before, is still focused on achieving a ceasefire. He needs this because hey, Hiri, welcome. He needs this because, as of today, he has already stopped 5 wars. And I think now this will be another big step for Trump, one that will put him in the history books. He has done a lot for the domestic market in America. Now he's doing this for the whole world. But we remember that Trump is building a unipolar world. The primary adversary for Trump and conservative America is China. So, understand, we interpret all information through the lens of China. Ksenia Klimova. Good morning, dear Mr. Oleg and friends. Yes, greetings. Glad to see you. So we're all waiting, of course, for this meeting. But we need to put all the pieces together to understand what's actually happening today. Imagine that 250 years ago, the founding fathers created America and basically kicked out England, declaring they would be independent. And now, 250 years later, England and the globalists are still claiming dominance. And you could say that now, after such a long period, for the first time America is turning around and saying, I will be the dominant one here and no one is going to dictate anything to me, because Trump is a pragmatist. He is not a politician, and he is a self-sufficient person because all the presidents before him, you could name 5 presidents back, and still they were dependent on some external structures that could put pressure on them at any moment. You even know that Clinton's emails were hacked, completely hacked by the KGB. So Putin and the KGB agents were very interested in having Hillary Clinton win. But thank God, everything turned out the right way. America has now turned around and is starting to become dominant. And so it turns out that now America, represented by the conservatives, has actually stopped the globalists, who are now backed by China as well. It's just that the globalists, once England used to dominate more, together with the Socialist European Union. But today, the entire dominance has completely shifted toward China. And China is interested in the destruction of Russia, the destruction of that same England, the destruction of Europe, and the fact that the war in Ukraine happened in China is one of the major reasons behind it. Now, considering this geopolitical situation, Trump now has, let's say, the option to pull Putin away from China. But at the same time, Trump has already carried out some groundwork, a kind of artillery preparation, where he has already separated China, India, and the eastern part, and even forced the globalists to join him. And what's more, he has taken the lead over them. Because if earlier the globalists had influence through Obama, through the Bidens, and so on, they could pressure and push their own agenda here. But as of today, the power is now entirely in the hands of the Republican wing. Alexander, good afternoon. Ksenia Klimova, good afternoon, dear Alexander. Novikova, hello. Oleg, what are your expectations from the meeting once it's over? Trump gave it a 25% chance of success. I would still say 50%. For some reason, I'm a bit optimistic, because if this meeting is already happening, then most likely there are already some preliminary agreements. And the situation is that Russia is in a terrible state right now, since Trump has cut off their cooperation with other countries. Now, China is only feeding off oil from Russia and India. It's in the process of being cut off. Their banks blocked money transfers for oil. Russia was shaken, and Putin is forced to negotiate. The question now is for Trump to defend U.S. interests as much as possible in the future, as well as Ukraine's as an ally. And most likely, we'll see what happens. But I don't rule out that Trump will insist on an interim corridor, like the one he established between Azerbaijan and Armenia, which came under American jurisdiction. So there you have it. This will be that strip, essentially untouched, that they'll agree upon. Where will it run? We don't know yet, but this strip will most likely be under the jurisdiction and guarantee of Trump and the conservative wing, who will ensure that Putin doesn't advance further or carry out any military actions. And this would be just the perfect option to separate ourselves with this strip, which will hold back Russia, and accordingly the Ukrainian-American fund that Trump is now creating. It should work to replenish this fund through the jurisdiction of the United States of America, and in the future, I think Trump is still determined to finally put the squeeze on Putin. His regime will be overthrown, I believe, due to internal processes, and there will still be a collapse. And most likely, Trump will insist, and actually make it happen, that Russia gives up its nuclear weapons entirely, and then only China will be left. But since Russia will already be completely neutralized in that regard, and America's strength now lies in the fact that Trump has united both Europe and the UK. Basically, he has put the globalists on a lower rung. The only truly powerful globalist left is China, which needs to be dealt with. As for Ukraine itself, of course, I think Trump will force Zelensky to hold elections, and then the necessary mechanisms will kick in. And our unification will be influential, I believe, in this case. This is the American Party of Ukraine, which will stand on the side of Ukrainians, just as Trump stands on the side of Americans. And our ideology is to ultimately choose a leader who would have conservative libertarian principles for building the state. Most likely, Ukraine will need to build a two-party system and change the constitution. Well, there's a ton of work to do, but with the help of the same, we could even bring in Javier Milei to help, because he knows how to deal with bureaucrats. So what am I here for? Good day. Alexander. Hello. And now I'm talking about Maria Roeder. Congratulations. Mr. Oleg. Congratulations. Nina Vasilyevna. Congratulations. Mr. Oleg, we await good news. Nice to talk to you. Extreme stories. Congratulations. The latest. Now we're party members together, so I'm inviting people. Please, you can send me a message through Messenger with the information that you want to join the party. I'll send you a short template so you can sign and join. And that's it. We will move as one big movement to help Ukraine in this situation. Maria Roeder is very worried that in Alaska they will display Ukrainian flags with the slogan meeting without Zelensky. So let the protesters go straight to the front line. Well, of course, because the globalists, and especially I think China, will now be very interested in disrupting those negotiations, because they understand that Trump has reached a point where he is neutralizing Putin, basically just disarming him. And a disarmed Putin, accordingly, if he makes a deal with Trump, that's a guarantee. What's in it for him is a guarantee that Trump won't let China get past the Urals. Basically, Putin has a choice. Either Russia falls apart and the Urals go to China, or Russia remains but still breaks up into some parts. At the same time, Trump can guarantee that China won't go beyond its own territory. Ola, what's your opinion? Is this about Russia? Is it about war? Or is it about business? Well, war, unfortunately, war is also business. Right now, we're just laying out the geostrategic situation, who's on whose side. And in this way, we can make predictions. And I think that artificial intelligence has already given a lot of hints, both to American intelligence and to the conservative wing of America. What could happen, and how is it best to move forward step by step? Still, I hope that today there will be some progress, but even so, it will be more like preparatory work. At the very least, we'll be able to see where and in which direction everything is moving. And the Russian delegation, well, Russia, as always, you know how they are. They've tucked their tails now and they won't have a way out at this point. I think they'll really need to negotiate with Trump because they've seen his dominance in the world. He's boxed them in. Did you see the drawing on the stream where there's a noose around Putin's neck and Trump is tightening it? And now he barely has any oxygen left, so he's forced to talk now. Only with real Ukrainian patriots in power, not Jews. I wouldn't include. You and I are talking in broader terms about how to build society and unite people, but now you're bringing in some, because all those things are deliberately thrown in by bureaucrats just to stay in power, some kind of side issues, topics that only make people butt heads with each other. But we don't need that. We've chosen our direction. We have to build a free society with the support of the United States of America. And for that, basically, the only thing we need to do is to stop the kind of Islamization that Europe has experienced. Right now, Ukraine is clean in that regard, and I think it will manage to preserve its gene pool and not allow all sorts of Islamists to enter Ukraine. The same problem with Islam is happening in Russia right now. So here, China is actually using Islam as a weapon. Do you think the reason for the war was the creation of an anti-Russia, which was started by the globalists in 2004? Of course. We've already talked about this. Behind the scenes was China, which was interested in starting some kind of war in Europe so that Russia would get involved, so that Europe would get involved and spend money. And the funding was almost entirely, about 70 to 90%, coming from America. This way, China weakens America. And over there, the Democratic Party acts as China's envoy. So it turns out that the war started on one side, Russia is being destroyed, Europe too, and all of this is being funded by America. That was the plan. And that's why everything over there, all of Europe, is completely infiltrated by Chinese agents. And the same goes for Chinese agents here and in America. Trump couldn't handle them either. And Soros is involved in that too. I think now Obama's connection has been revealed, Clinton, Soros, and soon it will become clear that China is definitely involved as well. That's why Trump understands who the main enemy is and strategically positions his forces correctly. So, Russian troops have established control over the DNR. Well, what do they have there? And so Russia has conquered this part of Ukraine. And then what? Will this part of Ukraine, will the people become richer? Will they live better? Is there any future in that KGB-run country? So why did Ukraine rise up? Because it's against the KGB, against Soros, and against the whole demo-socialist communist mafia. That's why. I remember just recently there were videos where, remember, Yermak said that we should turn to China for help. So what did China need? Who is Yermak? Maybe he's a representative of China? This question will be resolved. I think now the situation will unfold and a lot of information will come to light. And in the end, we'll really get a lot of news that will surprise us a lot. Already changed 2 train cars at the bottom. Yeah, the bots have swarmed in. Now the Russian flame war has started here. Control. Yeah. Everything started. It's all going now. They saw the picture with the noose around the neck, and everyone started rebelling. Greetings, Mr. Ola, 2077. Greetings to you. Hello. Ivan, it's set up. Yes. Natalia writes, hello. Hello to you too, Natalia. Very glad to see you. Yes, of course. Life will get better. For whom and where? Where do Ukrainian bloggers show life in Ukraine? It's a disgrace. Socialists together with the KGB made a problem in Ukraine. Now Trump will just kick them, both sides, right in the balls, and the alliance between Ukraine and America will really be able to rise.